Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Portsmouth, Virginia is the smallest of the 7 cities of Hampton Roads with a population of a little over 95,000 people. Most of the people living there are between the ages of 35 to 64. There are more women than men. The majority have finished high school, with a quarter of the population completing a college degree. Most are homeowners, and the median income is $47,000. The city is majority African American, and the citizens of Portsmouth have a dream for their city. Up next on Another View, an update on the Build One Portsmouth, Working Together, Shaping Our Future initiative. Stay tuned. Another View is next.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective. This is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Last year, we told you about a visioning project for the city of Portsmouth called Build One Portsmouth, Working Together, Shaping Our Future. Citizens have been working hard to determine the future direction of the city. And here with an update is Portsmouth Councilwoman Lisa Lucas-Burke. I always get your mom's name in there.
It's good because it's my middle name too, so it's okay.
It is so good to have you back. Thank you so much for being here. And City Planning Director Brian Swets. How are you?
I'm good, Barbara. Thank you for having us again.
It is great to have you all here. Lisa, I have to start first of all by asking you, how is your mother? Those of you who may not have read the paper this morning, Senator Louise Lucas was gunned or attempted. A gentleman attempted to drive over her with a truck.
Yes.
And very scary things that were happening. So how is she doing?
She's doing well today. A little shaken yesterday, and trying to just come to grips with it all, because it was a former employee, someone we trusted, someone that has been in our presence, on various occasions, and so just don't know what happened and why it turned that way. But glad that she's well, family's well.
And everybody's doing okay. Yeah, because he actually drove over your lawn also.
He did. He drove through my yard, and then he drove through my mother's yard, and then he went to our Lucas Professional Center building where our admin staff and day support program is housed, and just crashed through the front door.
Was that during the day or in the evening?
It was at 3:30 a.m. on Monday morning.
Wow.
Monday morning he decided, I guess he couldn't sleep, and so he decided to come and wreck our building at the front door.
So this gentleman has been arrested.
He has been arrested. He's in the custody of Portsmouth Police, and hopefully he can get some help, because he's definitely suffering from some mental illness breakdown.
Okay, well, we're glad that the senator is okay,
yes,
and that you're okay,
absolutely.
and that your staff is okay.
Yes,
because that's
absolutely.
a very scary thing to happen.
It is.
I also must say to you all that I had the pleasure this past Tuesday of being the keynote speaker for the Portsmouth Second Tuesday Forum, done by the libraries, and we had a marvelous time. We talked about why can't we all get along, and so it was a great conversation. And I appreciate Sue Burton and the others who were there, who invited me to come and share some of my thoughts. And
awesome.
so Portsmouth is a little special place in my heart.
Absolutely.
For the city of Portsmouth.
Yes.
So this visioning project is critical for the future of the city. But Brian, let me start with you. Can you remind people kind of how this process came together?
Sure. We are currently updating the city's comprehensive plan. This is a document that's required by state law, but even if it wasn't required, it's something that we should be doing just as a best practice for how to run a local government. We're looking at the city along a much longer timeline than what people normally think about. So we're looking 10, 20, 30 years into the future. And we've used extensive public outreach to find out what is it that Portsmouth citizens want their city to look like. And then we work to try to figure out how to make that happen.
And so when you say extensive public outreach, tell me some of the things that you all have done to make that happen.
So we are trying to get in front of as many people as we possibly can to get feedback from as many people as we possibly can. So in the past, we've used the traditional social media, and the project has a website, buildoneportsmouth.org. We've had open houses and charrettes where people can come and give feedback. But we've also tried to be more proactive about actually going and talking to people where they are. So going to civic league meetings, going to meet with neighborhood groups, going to meet with businesses or their associations, working with quasi-public entities that the city participates in, like the Economic Development Association, working with neighboring cities, sitting down and talking with Chesapeake and Suffolk, because Portsmouth isn't an island, and so when these best planning practices in the planning profession is this idea you can't just think about your city in a vacuum, you have to think regionally. So we're trying to incorporate all of these avenues so that we can get, as like I said, as much input as we can from as many people as we can.
So, Councilwoman Lucas-Burke, when you would go into the communities and listen, I
Yes.
assume, to some of these sessions and so
Absolutely.
forth, what are some of the things that people would say to you?
Well, one, I think I applaud our planning department for doing such a great job with reaching out to the community with the civic leagues and the forums that they held at TCC. I think the information was well planned out, well thought out, and the residents of Portsmouth seemed eager and excited about being able to participate. That their voice mattered and that they were able to add value to this comp plan that is going to supposedly last us another 10 years until we decide to update it again. But people were telling me, that they were thankful that we had this opportunity to let their voices be heard because they are the ones that shape our city, and if it's not for the citizens and the residents who are living here every day, then what are we doing? What are we reaching for?
And it's interesting because that there are a certain group of people, you can probably call them by name, who are very invested and involved in that civic process. But what was it like trying to get others to, so in other words, to make sure that this plan is not just one small group's perceptions, but that you're really truly grabbing everybody?
Right,
Let's go first, Brian.
that's the hard part, because, like you said, there's always going to be the same people who show up, say, at a city council meeting, and they want to have their voice be heard. And we said from the beginning, before we had started the work and hiring a consultant, we sat down and said, well, what do we hope to accomplish? And what we wanted, the biggest thing we wanted to do was reach more people. So one of the things that we did was we had exit surveys at every event that we went to, and we asked people to not only put your name and your contact information, but some basic demographic information, so that then we could go back afterwards and we could analyze the data and we could compare it to the demographics of the city and say, are we reaching everyone that we should be? And if there's a group that's missing, well, how do we go out and target those people? So, for example, we wanted to reach more young people because since this is such a long-term plan, and because we know that a lot of people who grow up in Portsmouth are going to live in Portsmouth, it's going to be their city. So it's
Right.
important that we hear from them. So we partnered with schools, and I went out and I did a couple of kind of like talk shows with the liaison who works between the school system and city government, and they have. At IC Norcom, they have this beautiful AV studio right there in the building. We sat down, we were on camera,
So
we
not
talked,
only
they
are you a
broadcast
radio
it.
star,
They
you're
do.
a TV star too, huh?
Being on local government staff, usually being in the media is a bad thing. But the show that being in IC Norcom, that was okay. I could live with that.
And so the students came out and also participated, which was great.
We had parents bringing their kids to some of the events, and that's fantastic. We had the kids do the exact same stuff that their parents were doing because their opinion is just as valid as anyone else's.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. I would love to hear from you if you participated in one of these group activities in terms of making your voice heard about the future of Portsmouth. 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So I know that there were some guiding principles that you worked with in terms of doing this. And so can we talk about those, our places, our position, our pride, our people? Did that come from the people, or is that something you guys set up originally? How did that come about?
And the planning department took the lead on kind of shaping how this whole comp plan would be set out. And of course, our places, our position, our pride, and our people, is what we wanted to capture with that. So that was a good foundation to get us started with that, because it kind of gave, people an avenue, an area to kind of focus on where they would like to see growth or where they would like to see improvement. So that was a great foundation for the people to get engaged and to begin with their ideas and their thoughts.
And it also made sure that it was all inclusive. Because when you talk about the pride of the city,
It
the
does.
people of the city and so forth, Brian.
The very first public outreach effort that we did we wanted to start on a positive note, and we didn't want to talk about, what's your problem with the city, what's your complaint. We wanted to talk about what is it you love and what do you think are the city's greatest opportunities. And so we literally got over 1,800 individual unique responses just to those two questions. Wow. And we boiled them down into those 4 guiding principles: our places, our position, our pride, and our people. Those are the themes that came through over and over again from the people that we spoke to.
And then out of that, so that kind of guided the conversations, and then out of that came the vision statement, which is 4 parts to that vision statement. So the city of Portsmouth, Virginia is thriving, resilient, evolving, and equitable. So we'll take each one of those sections and kind of go through to talk about some specifics. But before we do that, was there anything that surprised you that you thought, wow, I didn't know where that one was coming from? Or
I don't think this was a surprise, but one thing I was really happy about was when we were doing some of the data gathering before we started the process so that we could establish a benchmark for where we are. One of the things that we knew we had to address was climate change, sea level rise, flooding, a major issue in the city that's actually not addressed in the current comprehensive plan. So we worked with Old Dominion University, and we did a really extensive phone survey of over 2,000 people in the city. So it's statistically viable. It's using sound scientific methods. And we found that over 75% of people believe that not only is climate change real, but that the city of Portsmouth will see at least 1.5 feet of sea level rise by 2050. And so, in local government circles, one of the things that we talk about is, do people believe in this? Because, you hear in the national media, there's a lot of people who don't believe it's happening. But we know in our city that not only do they believe it's happening, but it's a real problem.
And they can see it.
Yeah,
They can see it.
yeah. You drive down your street, if you can't get your car in or out of your neighborhood, you know that this is a problem.
Yeah.
So that that gives us the ability to then say, okay, we don't have to worry about educating people. They know that this is an issue. We will get the support that we need to try to implement policies to address it.
Yeah, and I noticed in one of the, as I was reading through the strategic plans for each of these areas, that you even talked about sunny day flooding,
Well, yeah, anyone who lives in this area knows, you can have a bright sunny day like this and you go outside and it's flooded because the wind's blowing in the wrong direction.
So was there anything that surprised you,
There were.
Lisa?
I mean, and I'm glad it was a happy surprise for me because people were so passionate about Portsmouth and the vision and the things that are there, the people and the shops and, our quaint little port city. And I don't know if it surprised me, but it was a happy thing to hear from so many people. Usually hear the bad things about Portsmouth and why we don't want to come or live in Portsmouth, but everyone that brought value to this plan, had great things to say about Portsmouth, and that was a happy surprise.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to talk about the visioning for Portsmouth. Did you participate in some of the focus groups and some of the community conversations? And if you didn't, what is your perception of Portsmouth and where it should be going in the future? 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. I'm curious as to what people talk about the perception of Portsmouth from outsiders?
They talk about it, but they talk about it in a way that they're not upset. They just wish more people knew about Portsmouth. And that's something that I found,
Exactly.
just even if I wasn't working local government, just in my own personal life, before I started working in Portsmouth, I live in Norfolk, and I would go to Portsmouth all the time because I love downtown Portsmouth.
Yes.
The shops and the restaurants are interesting. They're unique. They're local. The Commodore is hands down the best movie theater in Hampton Roads. So, and I would talk to my friends, and they would say, "I've never been to Portsmouth." Like, how have you never been to Portsmouth? How is that a thing? And people who live in Portsmouth, they recognize that is a perception that's out there, and no one's mad. They just say, well, just come and see for yourself.
Right. And we need everyone to keep adding value into what we're trying to bring to Portsmouth because we have the untapped potential to be a great little port city, a great little marina city. And, if we can build upon those things and get more economic development in there, get more developers wanting to bring their tax dollars over to this side of the water, then, we're on our way.
So what was the overall vision then for people in terms of where they see Portsmouth 30, 40, 50 years down the line?
I would say
Is there
that
an overall?
I would say people want to see the city to look like it does now, just strengthen it a little bit. So for example, housing.
Right.
The city has an older housing stock because it's an older city, and so
Right.
one of the things that we know that we need to address going forward is coming up with a plan for modernizing housing. We need to have housing that's a little bit bigger so that it's appropriate for families. We know that people move to Portsmouth in their 20s, but they leave when they're in their 30s when they start raising families, and we think part of that has to do with we just have smaller, older housing. And so
And more affordable housing is definitely on the rise.
yes. And so where do we build it? How do we build it? But how do we do it without taking away from the existing character of the neighborhoods for people who have the equity, the sweat equity too, in their houses, for in some cases generations. We don't want to ruin that.
Because you've divided the city, I think it was 4 different areas in terms of housing. So there was
Historic
like
district
historic and
and-
yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the city has 6 recognized historic districts, and they tend to be towards the eastern part of the city, towards the water. And you see as you move west and as you move into Churchill, and you see different style housing. You see more one-story brick ranches. You see more of that kind of
more yard and that
yeah.
kind of thing.
You see more of the suburban style development that became popular in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And so, but even those are. You don't have like say an open floor plan because that wasn't a concept that really existed back then.
Yeah.
So how can we help people who want to stay in their home but they want to rehab it and they want to make it more modern, or maybe they have a parent who is going to be moving back in with them, and so they want to make their house accessible so they can live in aging
So when I
place.
was looking at the stats for that I mentioned in our intro for Portsmouth, and it was saying the majority of the people who live there are homeowners, which I thought was just very, very cool. So the idea of multifamily units and so forth, is that a part of the idea, the plan moving forward,
And
or
that's always
more
a
single
good,
family?
a good way to bring the people into the plan, because if you're a homeowner, you're serious about where you live and where you work and where you play, and you want your community to be safe, and you want the schools to be accredited, and you want the best for your hometown. And what we see a lot of times too is that because of the older homes, some people who don't live in Portsmouth are coming back to either live in those homes or either to rent them out. So they care about the value in the community that their houses are placed in as well.
So I noticed that parks were a big deal.
Yes.
And I'm hearing that from other urban areas also. Talk to me about parks. Why is that so important?
Because that's leisure. I mean, that gives people, that's a stress reliever, and it makes the city beautiful, and it gives people something to do outside of their home where they can still enjoy their city. And I think our city park is just one of the most beautiful parks in this area, because of the boat ramps and just the view that you can just sit out and watch. And, we have, some room for improvement, and the information that we received to help us to move forward is, a positive for getting us to the next level.
Yeah, and I talked before about gathering data. So one of the things that we did at the beginning here was look at where are our parks and where are green spaces. How can we connect those to make them more into networks? How can we make sure that all people have access to parks? We know that in Portsmouth and in cities across the country, the people of color generally do not have access to parks the way that you do in what are more suburban towns and cities. And so that's an equity issue. Equity being one of the themes of the plan is trying to make sure that the city is working for everyone. Having access to parks, open space, green space is something that we should be doing for all people.
And if you do have that access, also that also helps people to mingle.
It
and,
does.
and different
It
races and
does.
different groups of people to come together in a relaxed atmosphere, and that way they can get to know each other better, and so it makes for a stronger
Absolutely.
community. One thing I did not see in here, which I thought was interesting, was public safety in terms of police and fire and that kind of stuff. Is everybody just happy with what's going on?
Well, I think our Portsmouth Police Department has shown great improvement in the way that they provide services to our community. And seeing our new police chief, and the way that she's managing, and they've broken out into neighborhood community resource officers, and is giving people more comfort into seeing our police. So I think that not that they were okay, we don't need to focus on the police, but it wasn't as much as an
was an
issue
issue.
as it was before.
Yeah,
Great.
not to make excuses, but I will offer two excuses. One, we are working from our first draft, and we're going to have two more drafts, and we are going to be adding some stuff about police. We have some emergency management stuff in here, but what ended up happening is that our police department, and as the Councilwoman mentioned, our excellent new chief, Chief Chapman,
Yes.
they're currently working on a strategic plan, and that they were hoping to have it done when we had our first draft of the plan done, and we were going to take that and then fold the ideas into it. It's taking a little bit longer than they had hoped, and so we're working right now to bring those ideas, what they have now in kind of the rough draft form, and put it into the second draft.
So the plan, this is the draft plan at this point. It's still not finished.
Correct.
At this point. Okay. All right. Let's talk to Larry from Portsmouth. Hi, Larry. You're on the air.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
I've lived in Portsmouth for 39 years, so I'm 39 years old, March 12th. I love the city. I've grown up in it. It is a quaint city. It's very community-oriented. I want to answer one thing, though, and that is about public safety. I'm a former federal firefighter, and I can tell you that Portsmouth Fire Department statewide is recognized as one of the top fire departments in the state. They have an amazing response times, amazing level of service. When they provide service, it's always their quality is second to none. A lot of the other departments locally draw from the experience that Portsmouth Fire Department has. But my question was, I'm always trying to convince coworkers and people that I know who live in other cities to come to Portsmouth to avoid traffic and to avoid some of the things that the larger cities have. And I'm always trying to find ways to get people to like entry level or entryway into the city. And other cities have this. I'd like to see, if possible, City Park used as a venue for some kind of concert for families. If we had something like that in the city where City Park was maybe utilized a little bit as a venue for open concerts, I could get people to come and they would see the city and be more attuned to wanting them to move their families here. And I've spoken with my coworkers and neighbors, and they said if we had something like that, they would consider it. So I was just curious with your guest.
Okay, we'll ask the guests, and thanks for the idea, Larry. We appreciate that.
Larry, that's a great idea. Thank you for bringing that up, because we do have, some unused space at City Park that could open up to more opportunities for the community to engage into leisure and recreational space. I know that they have movies there for the children, but they could use, that same space to offer some other type of, even if it's a small concert, not, something great, big. But yeah, that's a great idea. So we will take it back.
And also from an entertainment perspective, the city will be opening portside again this spring and summer for summer concerts down on the water in the downtown area. So Larry, please bring your friends and family, come on downtown, get some dinner.
Yes.
Go listen to some music. And, you get a great view. It's a perfect venue.
It's a beautiful. So you talked about housing and affordable housing, and I know that there is a segment of the population that needs more help with housing and so forth. So what's the idea behind that in terms of the future, and what does that look like for people? I know you've taken down some public housing.
Right.
You've renovated some public housing, and so what's the plan?
Well, one big plan that we have coming up now is our 818 County Street location that has been vacant for over 30 years. Our Portsmouth Redevelopment Housing Authority identified this space, and they found a developer, the Wooder Group, with Bruce Watts, and they will be bringing on a brand new apartment complex that will house 59 new units, and that will be affordable housing. So, and it'll be mixed-use space. There will be some restaurant space on the first level, and then it'll be apartment living, and people are really excited about that. I was at a PRHA meeting last night, and they have a similar project over in Norfolk, and they filled that 50-unit space
over in
30
Berkeley.
days in Berkeley. Exactly. So we're bringing that same idea to Portsmouth. They have a 600-member waiting list to get into a 50-unit apartment over in Norfolk. So hopefully we can attract some of those residents and over to the Portsmouth side, because it will be managed by the same group, and it's going to be affordable housing, which people need. And we love all of our other apartment spaces, but, some people need a little bit of help when they don't have as much income, or they need, on a fixed income, they need affordable housing that their income base can handle.
And will there be public housing also, which is a little bit different from affordable housing?
Yeah, Portsmouth Redevelopment Housing Authority will still be up and running. We sat down for hours, literally with staff members from PRHA to figure out what is it that you are looking to do in the future, what's your long-term plan, how can we as a city work together across different departments to try to make that a reality. So, one of the things I know that they're going to be working on over time is renovating and updating some of the existing apartment complexes that they have, again, to make them nicer and to make them more modern for their residents. So, we're trying to support that where we can. One of the things that the plan is looking at from a housing perspective is that we would like to find ways to get more people as homeowners, because that's the best way for citizens to build equity.
Right.
And building equity, increasing property values means more money for schools, which means stronger neighborhoods, which means more people want to move into your city, and it becomes that kind of positive reinforcing cycle that we want to be able to create.
So there'll be more perhaps programs to help people to become homeowners and to move into that pipeline.
The PRHA continues those. They have those sessions for making families self-sufficient all the time. So, I'm sure that's definitely going to be a continued plan.
Okay, if you're just joining us, we're talking about the Build One Portsmouth, Working Together, Shaping Our Future initiative with Portsmouth Councilwoman Lisa Lucas-Burke and City Planning Director Brian Swets. Right? Okay,
yes.
I want to make sure it wasn't sweets.
Yep, that's the common way of saying it.
Yes.
440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call. If you have not participated in the community conversations, Councilwoman and Brian are here and they're taking notes. So if you have some ideas, some things that you would like to see for the city of Portsmouth, give us a call, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So, okay, I'm going to say the T word. I know it's a nasty word. And that's tolls. And how did it figure into kind of planning for the future? Does it have an impact in terms of economic development and so forth? What's the deal with that? Who wants to start?
Oh, gosh. I guess I'll take
Councilwoman Lisa Lucas-Burke.
Excellent.
Well, the tolls are going to be with us. I mean, Northern Virginia is suffering with tolls as well, and they told us to stop crying and live up to it because their tolls are higher than ours. Unfortunately, we're in this deal where the tolls are not going to go away, and they're going to increase, with coming years. So our best asset will be to get as many people that we can living and working on this side of the tunnel, because we can't, we've gone to our General Assembly, we've tried to find ways to leverage it or to redo the agreement that was made with the Elizabeth River Crossing group. And, it's just, it's a long time in the future. It's a long time away. I think it's a 58-year deal where none of us will get to see, the outcome from that. And unfortunately, we do need funds to help build our roads and to help repair our roads and to help, with our transportation issues that we have across the state of Virginia. And unfortunately, the tolls are going to be here. But we've got some new affordable housing, and hopefully we can get some other people to come and develop in the city of Portsmouth and get more residents moving on this side.
So from an economic development perspective, what do they say? Is that a barrier? Are the tolls a barrier at all?
I don't think people see it as a barrier.
Okay.
They see it, as an opportunity because I, was talking with someone who takes the Dominion bridge as well, and and sometimes they have to take two tolls. So people, I think they're coming with the idea that that we're just factoring it into our budgets because if there's not a toll here now, sometime in the future there may be a road that they travel that may be tolled. So we're living with it. I guess limiting the amount of times that you would have to travel back and forth to a toll, but people have.
But like you said, if more business comes to Portsmouth and people live in Portsmouth, then there won't
have to be as much
of an
travel.
issue. And on the other end of the city is Chesapeake and Suffolk. What's that relationship like? Right.
I have a good relationship, actually. I used to work in Chesapeake, and I have friends who work in the planning department in Suffolk. And so, like I said, I've sat down with them and said specifically, what is it that you're looking to do, and then how can we capture that? So, for example, Harbor View in northern Suffolk is a really popular retail destination.
Yes.
Well, then how should we look at our land uses that are up in Churchill along the border there? maybe something like more multifamily makes sense as opposed to trying to compete with something that's so built out, or along the George Washington Highway corridor as you go through the Craddock neighborhood and you get down into Chesapeake. Are there opportunities that we can work together to try to improve that corridor as a whole? So, these are things that we think about and that we're trying to make happen.
So the phones are lit up, so let's find out what folks want to talk about. Hi, Troy. You're from Portsmouth. How are you?
Thank you. How great. How are you?
I'm doing great. What's your question or comment?
Couple of questions. The property down on the waterfront where we have the city jail, is that being utilized? And if so, that's kind of dead space that we could probably use to bring in more revenue as well. I'm a recent small business owner in the city from Williamsburg, and I'd like to know, are we trying to do more to promote our tourism in Portsmouth? I think Portsmouth is a wonderful city that's grown totally on me in the last 12, 13 years.
Yes. Well, Troy, thank you for that comment. Actually, the city council had our annual retreat this year, the first week of February, and we were in Wakefield, Virginia. And, of course, that downtown waterfront property always comes up. And we have a plan, the revitalization of our Crawford Street corridor. And we plan to develop that space. We want to eventually take down the old jail and the old courthouses and make that a developable property, get a developer to come in and to build that whole area up, with shops and eateries, the things that people would like to see when they're in an area that's a marina type place, or where there's a boardwalk or a seawall where they can walk and enjoy the waterfront space that's there. So it's definitely a plan of the city of Portsmouth. And if you go on our website, Portsmouth, Virginia website, City of Portsmouth website, you'll see our plan for the revitalization of the Crawford corridor and the downtown area. So we're with you on bringing that tourism here and the marketing. And of course, last time I was on this show, I wanted to bring the Ferris wheel to the downtown area so that, those residents over in Norfolk at Waterside would say, Mom, I want to go over there. Norfolk City of Norfolk had their State of the City address last week. And they announced the Ferris wheel, and my lip dropped. And I said, they stole my idea. So, but Virginia Beach is looking at it too. But we're definitely trying to figure out what our best avenue would be. But definitely taking down that old jailhouse and the courthouse and building that up for something that's marketable and tourist attraction is on our agenda as well. So thank you for that. So
I noticed one of the other areas was food deserts. And the people talked about eliminating food deserts. Can you talk a little bit about that and what the plan would be to make that better?
Well, we don't have a specific plan yet to figure out how to do it, but what we do know is that there are people who don't have access to healthy food, and so we need to try to figure out what are some different ways of addressing that. For example, the health department a couple times has gone to communities and done kind of a traveling farmers market where they've brought actual produce to a neighborhood and given people the opportunity to purchase it right there. But, what if that's the type of program that we could expand in unique ways? So, for example, maybe we could get a food truck to come in with them and you could do a cooking demonstration. And so, because it's not only being able to have access to food, but you might want to have ideas for how to cook it. What to do with it. What is this leafy thing? I don't trust it. I want someone to make something good so I can try it and know that I'm going to like. So there's different kind of innovative approaches that we're hoping to be able to utilize to try to address things like that, where people just don't have access to basic services or provisions that most other people do.
And it's all about education as well. Just like you said, what is this vegetable that is in front of me? I've never tried it and I'm leery of it. So, we want to provide more education for people to be able to be healthy and to make healthy choices as well.
So I don't live in Portsmouth. So, it's one of the cities that I really haven't been able to travel through a lot. I've been to downtown and love the restaurants and stuff there, and I've been to Churchland. But I hear people talk about different neighborhoods where they grew up and that the pride of those neighborhoods. But are those neighborhoods integrated, or are they more racially isolated because during the time when they could buy houses, this is where, kind of African Americans settled, and this is where others settled, and so forth. Is that still the case, or is there now a blending, but yet the whole idea of keeping the history behind these neighborhoods important?
Well, our downtown is definitely blended.
Yeah.
We have a good mixture of African Americans and Jewish and Caucasian and some Asians are moving in as well now. Our outer neighborhoods are still pretty much segregated because, like I said before, if it was an older community and it was mama's house and now the children are moving back in, and if they're not moving in, they're renting to people that they know who are of the same, racial background. So, in some of the communities where the housing is more modern, you are seeing more of a mixture. And I think that has a play in it too. So once we're able to capture the whole belief of what people want their community to look like, I think that racial mix-up will
I was going to
change
ask,
as well.
is that an aspiration of the people that you've heard from, or not?
Yes, we do not and did not hear during public outreach efforts anyone complaining about race relations in the city. That seems to be a perception that's been kind of placed on the city from the outside. We did not hear anyone talking about that at any point. I can say that definitively.
Wow. That's huge,
It is.
because there is a perception from the outside
Yeah.
that's different, and I don't know where that came from.
We don't.
Any ideas where that came from? Then we won't dwell on it.
Just old stereotypes.
Let's talk to Pierre in Virginia Beach. Hi, Pierre. You on the air?
Yes, hey, thank you guys for taking my call.
Uh-huh.
As a resident of Virginia Beach and getting ready to purchase a home in Portsmouth, this is a great topic. So I do want to say thank you all so much for just, listening to the callers and what you all have been doing for the community. What I wanted to say with my opinion, I think would be a great start as well, is first impressions, and specifically the roads. Because I've noticed when I was stationed here in NES Oceana in the Navy since 2001, once you are on 264 and you get out of that Hampton Bridge tunnel and you get out of there and you would take the first exit to go towards the Naval Hospital, that's when you start seeing bumpy roads, you'd see potholes, and you kind of feel like maybe I'm not in Kansas anymore kind of feeling. and I noticed that that's the same thing that still happens, even if you're going down Virginia Beach Boulevard, heading towards Norfolk, that once you get out of the Virginia Beach side and you reach East Virginia Beach Boulevard, same thing, bumpy roads, potholes, things like that. So I think maybe that's probably why, for one of the questions about, what can make it more attractive, just those little things like that makes a big difference. Because I've noticed that being someone from Miami, Florida, and getting stationed here and just living here since I got out of the Navy, that's when I realized that, it's not as attractive. So
okay, Pierre, let's let them respond, and we thank you, and I guess they thank you for buying a house in Portsmouth.
Absolutely. But I would like to add to that because, Portsmouth is 33 square miles, and 45% of our land is owned by the federal government, the Navy Yard, the Naval Hospital, the Coast Guard, and those entities that don't pay taxes into the city of Portsmouth. But we've recently investigated, did some research and have a question posed with that strip of land that goes right into the Naval Hospital, and we have recently found that there are some federal dollars that will be able to transfer back to us to help, at least that Effingham corridor going into the Naval Hospital look more beautified. So we're going to be going after those funds with the Navy and to try to find out how we can use that to beautify our land. Roads.
And Brian, I know that there's also a different plan that talks about some of the beautification things that people would like to see.
Right. So what Pierre was talking about when we use technical planning terms are gateways. The idea that you're coming into the city, this is the first thing that you see. And Pierre's right. You want to make that good first impression. And so we do have a couple of things in here talking about making sure that the roads are good quality, making sure that there's nice plantings, that there's signage, so that not only do you know you're in Portsmouth, but if you know specifically where you're going, it's easy for you to figure out how to get there. You don't have to constantly be looking down at your phone or listening to your navigation, things like that. So yes, that is something that we're thinking about, and it's something that we are trying to address.
Okay. Let's see. Frank is on the air from Norfolk. Hi, Frank. You're on the air.
Hello, Barbara. I agree with the fact that you haven't visited Portsmouth very long, but very much. I mean, because there is a lot of competition in this area, Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Hampton. But I used to go to a pizza place. They have very nice pizza in Portsmouth, but when they put the toll, that just made it not competitive. So I don't know how this toll is going to help tourism. I think it's not. Then second, there is a lot of corruption. I live here in this area for 30 years. Every time that I hear something about Portsmouth, I don't want to visit Portsmouth. The council people are corrupted. The schools are corrupted. And the segregation is common throughout America. And the fact that the downtown...
Then, Frank, let me let our guests, because we're getting short on time. Let me let our guests respond to some of your comments, and I'm sure that they hope that you would come get some of that pizza sometime. Thanks a lot, Frank, for the call. You want to respond?
The thing that Frank is saying, I mean, it is common across all of our Hampton Roads cities, and it's just not segregated to Portsmouth. Because when I look in the paper, I see other cities that are suffering with some of the same things that we are as well. You just have to find that special little spot or that special little place or, that opportunity where you're going to spend your money. And unfortunately, we can't stop the things that we have no control over, but we're trying our best with our economic development, with our police safety to change those images.
Has this process given you all a kind of a different look at ways to engage community than in terms of, because not only the future planning, but when other issues may arise now? Are there some things, some nuggets that you've gathered from doing this process that will help you to be more inclusive in terms of letting the community decide its fate, if you will?
Right. I think planning has done a great job with, on how they have invited the community to come into this. I mean, they weren't shy with it. They, I think, opened every avenue available to them, with the forums and the TCC and then at City Hall and then, at social services. And, they gave people a various selection of opportunities to get engaged in this process. So if someone didn't get engaged, they either didn't know or just chose not to participate, but it was definitely marketed very well.
Do you know how many people?
How many people have?
Do you have any idea?
I'm going to say over 500 people. I mean, there was over 200. It was about 250 people just on the very first time we went out to speak. I mean, we've probably had over 500 people at our events, and that doesn't include, I'm not even including the ones where I would go out and speak to people directly.
I mean, so overall, in terms of every single avenue that you've reached, do you have any clue how many people?
What I can tell you is we can probably figure that out on buildoneportsmouth.org because every comment that we received has been written down, and we posted it on the website to try to be fully transparent. So when we started this process and we came up with the name Build One Portsmouth, that was done very specifically. That was designed to say that we are one city, that we are all working together towards a common end. And to Frank's point about segregation, I'm sorry that he feels as an outsider that that's the case, but from the people that we spoke to and heard from, that wasn't it. People looked at themselves as Portsmouth residents who are all working together towards a common goal of making the city better. So, I'm sorry he feels that way, but hopefully that won't make the pizza taste any different. I still hope he would come over and try it.
Maybe we could change his mind, yes.
And there are people who also say, well, what about the school system? But the school system worked very closely with you all in this process, did they not?
Yeah,
they did.
We did. Like I said, I went into the schools to try to meet with kids and let them know that this was happening. I sat down with Dr. Bracey, the school superintendent, to see what he was working on. I met with one of his deputies to get very specific ideas, and those are included here in the plan. For example, the idea that they would like to build another middle school and then kind of change the age patterns for who's in elementary and who's in middle school. And these are ideas that came directly from the school system, not from ourselves.
Yeah. So we got about 3 minutes left. So out of this, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, we tried to make it very clear to our consultant that when we were coming up with this plan, that this has to be something that recognizes and respects the city's fiscal reality.
Right.
The people are putting a lot of time and effort to coming to our meetings and to review documents to have their voices be heard. We owe it to them to not promise them everything under the sun. We have to say that here are the realistic things that we can do. So, the plan that people can review on the website, buildonportsmouth.org, it's long, but don't forget, too, that this is also a plan that's going to last 20 years. And so, we're looking at a playbook for 20 years of city work. So while at front it may look like it's going to be hugely expensive, you also got to remember we're doing this implementing this over time.
Over time.
Right.
And Lisa, then how do you get people, this administration buys into this, but the administration 5 years from now or 10 years from now, how do you keep it from being a plan on the shelf, but actually a living, breathing document?
Well, I think we keep talking about it and we keep engaging the community in it. And right now we're in the middle of budget season with the city council, so we're going to try to take a little bit, carve out a little bit in the capital improvement fund, the CIP funds, and do a little bit at a time, so that when people see things to start happening, they believe that this is real. We are taking their ideas and we are bringing them to action, and it'll be hard to change that in 5 years if we get a new council and they already see that we've made some moves toward changing the image of Portsmouth.
One of the things that we've talked about doing in order to make this responsive to citizens is creating this idea of an implementation committee. And so, maybe we sit down with Councilwoman Lucas-Burke, who's the liaison to our planning department, along with some citizens who have been participating in the process every 3, 6 months, maybe 12 months, whatever it is. But we can say, here's what we've been working on related to the comp plan, because you all told us that this is what you wanted us to do. And so then that helps us to stay accountable, but it also keeps the comp plan and the idea of the comp plan in front of people so that they remember it exists. So like you said, it doesn't become, if you don't mind, because I know we're running out of time, but I just want to circle all the way back to the beginning when we talked about public participation. For people who are interested, we are having 2 more open houses for the second draft of the plan. We are going to be meeting this Monday, from 6 to 8 at the Churchland Public Library. And we are going to be meeting the following Tuesday from 11 to 1 at TCC on Victory Boulevard. So the plan, I was hoping to have it up on the second draft up. It's not quite done yet, but I'm hoping to get it today from the consultant so that we can then post it on the website. You can review it over the weekend before you come in, or we'll have copies of the plan there. We'll have the consultant team and myself. We will be there to answer questions, to engage with you, and we do everything that we can to try to make sure that your voice is heard as we work towards drafting a final draft.
And they can find out more at buildOnePortsmouth.org.
That's correct.
Thank you so much, Brian Swets and Councilwoman Lisa Lucas-Burke. We appreciate it, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Claude McKnight of the group Take 6, and you're listening to Another View.
There's a new sun rising. I can see a new rising. People keep realizing you're the biggest part of me.
And welcome back. I'd like you to think back to when you were a child. What scared you? And who made you feel safe? These are the types of questions you can find in the interactive children's book series, The Holiday Boys. Our very own Lisa Godley recently spoke to Onika Daniel, mother of 3 and a domestic violence survivor, about creating teachable lessons within this engaging series.
Inspired by her sons who were born on Halloween and April Fool's Day, The Holiday Boys were created for children and parents to read and discuss important family issues. Onika Daniel decided to write the first book about helping a young child adjust to the new baby. Daniel started the series when her youngest son was born, but the desire to write had always been there.
I've always been a writer when I was a child and things like that, so I've always written things down and always been a very creative person. But, life, sometimes the things that you love to do, you kind of set to the side.
Her second book delves into children learning to face their fears. In it, Daniel emphasizes the importance of young children having creative outlets as well as escapes. Each book is interactive, including questions and activities designed to engage young readers.
What I realized was that with my son now, he's 13, sometimes it's hard for him to express his feelings and his thoughts, especially since, he was a witness to some of the violence that I experienced. So with that being said, I said, you know what? Sometimes it's easier for kids to write things down. So let me include an interactive piece that will allow a conversation between a parent and a child. A lot of times children, if they're scared or maybe they don't know who they can talk to about a certain topic, sometimes it's easier for them to draw a picture, or sometimes it's easier for them to write something down or doodle, or use their imaginations. So that's basically the premise behind the interactive piece.
Daniel does not hesitate to share her story of domestic violence. It's her way of doing something for the greater good.
I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and I was in an unhealthy relationship for 13 years. Initially, it started off as emotional, and then it gradually increased to mental and physical. Towards the end, it became very physical. Sometimes, and I'm not going to blame age on this, but sometimes when you're younger, you make excuses. You say, oh, well, he called me a name, so he's just having a bad day. Or he loves me because he doesn't want me to go out with my friends, ever. Or he's trying to tell me what I should wear, so that means he cares about me. These are controlling behaviors that are red flags, that things he may not be who he portrays himself to be. But I want women to know, women, men, and children, that there is help out there. You're not alone. It's not your fault. And you can be happy.
She now uses her gift, showcasing healthy families, through her writing.
We really want to teach lessons, and we also want to encourage reading. Reading is so important. In today's world, it's all about an iPhone, all about looking on your phone and scrolling and Facebook and Instagram. We want to take it back to where, you open up a book, you have a dialogue with someone.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
And the story you just heard was produced by Another View intern Kaya Kraft, a junior at Christopher Newport University. And you can find the book series, The Holiday Boys, online at Amazon.com or their website, theholidayboys.com. Now, in the story, author Anika Daniel talked about her experience with domestic violence, and that is the topic of our Another View on health next week. If you are a victim of domestic violence, please call the Coordinated Crisis Response Hotline at 757-251-0144. Please be safe and protect yourself. And a couple of other community notes very quickly before we go. Want to let you know that the Hampton Roads Community Action Program, in partnership with Families Achieving Community Economic Stability, or FACES Coalition, will provide free tax preparation services to qualified residents in the Hampton Roads community. So now, to qualify, you have to be a family with an income of less than $53,930 and 2 or more children, or a single individual with no children and income less than $15,010, or low-income elderly people with disabilities. Now, they will provide these services free of charge until April 17th. For a list of locations and times, go to hrcapinc.org. That's hrcapincorporated.org, and they will help you with your taxes. And also, this Sunday, March the 18th, from 3 until 5 at First Baptist Church, Butte Street, there will be a community hymn sing. Come and join the congregation and sing hymns of the season. It should be a lot of fun. That is at First Baptist Church, Butte Street in Norfolk. Thanks so much for joining us for this edition of Another View. If you want to hear this show again or share it with a friend, please visit our website, anotherviewradio.org, and download the podcast. Our theme music was composed and performed by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Victor Bowen is our audio engineer, and Alexis Smith answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Thank you so very, very much for listening to Another View.